Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about femininity. If you are tired of taking your cues of being a woman from diet culture, Hollywood, or the porn industry, this is going to be a great month for you. We'll be exploring the different facets of embodying your own unique femininity and create the space so that you can tap into your own feminine essence. Ooh, this is going to be decadent, y'all. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and here we are for the first episode in this month's topic around femininity. Y'all, it's a tough word to say. I'm probably going to butcher it. Femininity. It really is like, you got to slow down to say that one. But I couldn't be more thrilled to be talking about femininity because it is something that in my own life, I have had to create a new relationship with. And I'm imagining that if you are listening to this, there is something about this concept of being a woman, the aspects, the qualities, the essence of femininity that is intriguing or maybe even a little bit elusive to you. And so I'm excited that we get to dive into this because it really is one of those topics that, unless you're really in the woo-woo world, you don't really hear a lot about this. I mean, we get subtle messaging all over the place about what it means to be a woman, but it's not from a conscious place. It's not from a place where we slow down and really think about it, connect with it, decide how we want to choose to define it. It's usually ushered in as a should, as an expectation, as a rule. And we have sort of a warped view oftentimes of what that means that can cause us a lot of shame in our lives, a lot of pain in our lives. And so I'm excited that we have a whole month devoted to talking about this. And it's fun because in the past, I have led group coaching programs centered around this idea of femininity. Like I said, it's one of those things that I've studied a lot. I've talked about it a lot. I've led groups on this. And so it's fun that we get to do this on the podcast. And it's interesting. I do this almost every time we have a new topic. I kind of go to Google first and seek out the most general way that something is defined, like the literal definition of the word, of the topic, of the theme. And so it was so interesting when I did that for femininity. Here's what came up. Number one, the definition was qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of women. Okay, great. That is really open-ended. A lot of things could fit inside of that. And I don't know that I would say I disagree without, really taking a deeper look, but face value, great. But then I went deeper into asking Google. It's never a good thing when you start asking Google deep questions, but it's fascinating what you find. So I started searching, what does it mean? Or what does femininity mean? Or what does it mean to be a woman? And so here's what I found. That the traits of a woman are nurturance, sensitivity, sweetness, supportiveness, gentleness, warmth, passivity, cooperativeness, expressiveness, modesty, humility, empathy, affection, tenderness, and being emotional, kind, helpful, devoted, and understanding have been cited as stereotypically feminine. I hope that kind of makes your skin crawl a little bit. It's like, at least this was my response, was like, what a limiting view of what it is to be a woman. And I mean, literally there are words that were bolded in that description, and they were sensitivity, gentleness, humility, and empathy. Those are the traits of a stereotypical feminine, qualities, characteristics of women. So then I went to the next search and bear with me because I just feel like it's like one of those studies that you go, oh my God, this is like fascinating as a cultural study. But then the suggested questions that popped up were, what is modern femininity? And I was like, ooh, this will be interesting. And so it said new femininity is about having a combination of both soft and strong attributes. The modern woman, it was bolded, the modern woman has the balance of being able to show a soft and supportive side while at the same time demonstrating strength. She is resilient, knows what she wants, and speaks her mind. And I was like, okay. You can see the evolution of Google here. It's just like, okay. And then this was such an interesting question. It's like, I don't know if you've ever done this where it literally like will generate the questions that are similar to the one that you asked. So you can kind of, go on a whole rabbit trail. So the next question underneath that one was, how can you tell a girl is feminine? And I was like, ooh, this will be a good one. So here's what the answer was. When she feels most feminine, there's lightness in her step and spirit, and she is attractive to all around. The sparkle of her eyes, the sensuous feel of her own skin, and the gentle tenor of her mood define the essence of a woman's femininity. So I just want to gauge, as you hear me share this, like, what is your innate response to this? Are you like, yeah, that feels really beautiful? Like when I think of that, I think about the sparkle in my eyes, sensually connecting to my body, to my skin. There's this lightness in her step and her spirit. Like, does that resonate? Or does it make your skin crawl? Do you kind of like go, oh God, that's so vacuous or so focused on the ego, the appearance? What are your thoughts about that? Even the definition or the difference between some of those stereotypical feminine qualities versus the modern femininity. It really is an interesting study, because I think that we all come to this concept of femininity with our own thoughts about it, our own feelings about it, our own preconceived notions of what it is, even though I think sometimes it's kind of challenging to express or to describe, because as kids, like, each of us learned, for those of us that are women, we learned like the things that a woman does from several different sources. So one is, as you could imagine, like cultural conditioning. So if you think about what it would mean to be a woman in America versus Abu Dhabi or China or Africa or Peru, based on where you live, the working definition of a woman is going to be very different. The cultural norms, the expectations of a woman's place are going to be different. And obviously here in the States, we have a predominant kind of patriarchal society that stems from Christianity. So we have a lot of that kind of Puritan thinking that comes into the mix when we think about the roles of a woman, what it would be to be a good woman, a good little girl, a good wife, a good partner. And that's going to obviously look very different based on where you were raised. And then we can even get more nuanced in this, which I think is fascinating, where we look at even inside of America. Like I remember rewinding back to an episode that I had with Kate Northrup, where we were talking about money. And I was just sharing that, growing up, there was this expectation that I would get married and have babies, and that would be my singular focus and kind of the totality of my purpose and worth and value as a woman. And that there was this expectation that a man would kind of rescue me, that I wouldn't have to pay my bills or any of that. And so there was sort of this knight in shining armor on the white horse running in and rescuing me, damsel in distress. I'm really here for beauty's sake, and to be had. And I remember her being like, whoa, like I don't resonate with that at all. And I think she grew up somewhere in the East Coast, like Connecticut or New York, and like totally different. The way she was raised up north was very much like self-sufficiency, independency, self-leadership, taking care of yourself, equality amongst partners. And I was like, wow, how interesting would that have been to be raised that way? Where in the South, there's a very clear kind of idealistic idea of what a woman is, sort of the Southern Belle, the oh my God, I'm blanking on the Gone with the Wind woman's name, Scarlett O'Hara, where it's basically like you wear the beautiful dresses, you have, your lipstick and your hair just right, and you are very agreeable, kind of like those traits that they talked about in the beginning of Google search. If you're very agreeable, you're very sensitive, you're very sweet, you're very passive, you just smile and nod, and you don't really have an opinion, you don't have a say-so, and you sort of just go along being very polite and being agreeable and people-pleasing and serving and putting everybody's needs above your own. Like, that's to be expected. That's what a woman does. And then I don't even know what y'all West Coast people do. I'm like thinking like, man, I don't really know anybody like from childhood or that I've had a conversation with people from the West Coast, how they were raised as women. I don't even like have a reference point for that. So if you're from the West Coast, send me a message. I would be like so curious to know what that was like. What would those messages that were communicated about being a woman, what those were. Maybe if I go back to like the OC, this kind of idea of the beach babe, all of that. But there's a lot of expectations that are put on us as women of how we are meant to be given where we live. Okay. So we've got that. We've got the sort of cultural norms of America. We've got that are influenced by patriarchy and, all of that. We've got where we're actually located. And then we have familial expectations. And all of these sort of like fall into the category of rules. Like, here's your list of boxes you need to check off to be a quote unquote good woman, to be acceptable in the eyes of those who are near and dear to you. So I want you to start thinking about some of those rules. Like, one of mine growing up from my mom was you don't leave the house without lipstick and earrings. Is there like anything more Southern than that? You don't leave the house without lipstick and earrings. And y'all, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm still doing it. Even though I am a very independent thinking woman, I still have lipstick on, although not so much with my mask given COVID, because it really just gets all over it, not a great look. But you better believe I've got those earrings on. Like, I can't even tell you in the past, probably, 25 plus years, 30 years, that I've walked out of the house without earrings. Like, I won't do it. I just won't do it. If I could sleep in them, I would. But that was ingrained, which is like such a stupid, silly thing, obviously. But those were some of those things that were communicated. Giving to a man, even though think about the roles of parenting, the roles of wife, what's expected, the roles of bringing in money or not bringing in money. So you've got a lot of those familial roles and rules that are coming in to play. Like, whether you are from a family who really values higher education and having the woman be just as much, a productive member of society in the way of looking at their achievements business wise. So that's going, okay, doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Part of this expectation of our family is that you are a overachiever. And so maybe you are a doctor or a lawyer or something that is more traditional, higher education. It could be, again, that you have no profession, that the women in your family, your mother, your grandmother were all stay-at-home moms and raised the children, and that was their contribution. It could be all kinds of things. Like if a woman is supposed to be nurturing or coddling or loving or compassionate, or more detached. We learn so much, not only from our own mothers, but also like from our aunts, from our grandmothers. And I know that in my family, we got the messaging definitely to be people pleasers and to be accommodating and to make sure that the house was taken care of and everything as the husband came back from a long day of work, that it would be clean and that dinner would be on the table and all the above. So, which is weird. It's kind of weird because all of my sisters are all very entrepreneurial. We're all very successful. We're all growing up. They used to call us the little chiefs. We were like, taking care of business, making it happen, which I really think comes from my dad because my mom was a stay-at-home mom. It's just really interesting to notice, and you can look at it even without judgment and just be curious of like, notice like, oh, that's like coming into play as well. And then we've got the biggest piece, which is the religious element at play here. Hey y'all, I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com/circle and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode. Oh man, this one's a doozy. And y'all know, depending on how you were raised, whether you were raised really, I mean, any religion or lack thereof, there are some very strong messages that are communicated about women, about women's place, around women's sexuality, around women's voice. And it is very eye-opening when you start pulling back the layers just to see, like, even what, like in the church, what roles that women can hold. So like, can they be a priest? Can they be a pastor or not? You know, like traditionally it would just be only men, positions of leadership, things like that. So there's a lot of strong messaging from a religious standpoint, which would be like a whole conversation that honestly, I just don't want to get into because it's so weighted and it carries a lot with it. But I think it's very important that we mention that this element of religious connotation is going to inform how we think of ourselves as women and what we're here to do, how we're supposed to show up, and the rules that we kind of build our lives around. So we've got those American rules or cultural rules based on where we live, nuanced of like smaller state location of the United States, our familial, I'm having a lot of hard words today, familial rules, and then religious rules. So as you kind of slow down, and we just want to sort of take inventory, because if the idea is that we want to create a definition of femininity that feels really empowering, really expansive, really grounded and solid, we've got to sort of have a blueprint of what we've been or an awareness of the blueprint we've been working under so that we can alter it, change it, update it, and create a new blueprint. Because I think that as women, you know, it's like, I think women ultimately, and it's a very vulnerable thing, I think, femininity, but it's like there's this beauty in stepping into that from a place of power. And when we feel like the rules or the expectations are either too high, we can't meet them, or they're fuzzy and they're unclear, and maybe we disagree with some of the old stuff that we were raised with, but we don't really have a new blueprint. It's sort of like we don't know how to be. And so we end up taking all of our cues from external suggestions, stimuli, and right now, more than ever, there are so many strong opinions on what it looks like to be a woman. I mean, on one category, you have this like do it all, right? You've got to raise your kids. You've got to have a full-time job. You've got to have amazing sex with your partner. You've got to be able to cook your food. It's like literally take what we used to do and like amp it up so much. And then you have this other camp that is very anti-establishment, anti-patriarchy, getting rid of any kind of sense of femininity. And so that can be, you know, there's this space of like, well, then what is it? And so I think that only we can individually choose how to define what femininity is for each of us, what that blueprint is. And it's so helpful to slow down and go, okay, what rules have I been operating under that I personally still have, conscious or unconscious, for being a woman, for existing in my femininity? And a lot of what we do when we don't have this defined is, like I said, we look to external sources. So you can imagine right now, and it's been this way for centuries, is we start taking those cues from, you guessed it, diet culture, which is my favorite to hate on because it's just so rooted in fear and inadequacy and unworthiness of like, we have to look a certain way to be feminine. Like when I think about femininity, I instantly think, like for my old way of thinking, is like very old school, like red lipstick, wide hips, flowy clothes. Not to say that's not feminine, but it's like there's only like, it's like my definition is so limited to seeing sort of the Hollywood beauty when I think about femininity. You know, big breasts, big hips, small waist. It's like, oh yeah, like when she's free flowing. And when I don't feel that I have that body, it's like, man, what does that set me up for? Like if I don't have the body that the diet industry tells me that I have to have in order to be attractive, and like that definition of the Google said, what did it say? Let me go back and look. She's attractive to all around. It's like, oh my God, I'm setting myself up for failure here. Like there's no way I can get that. And literally, no matter how much I diet or surgeries I have, like that's just literally not how my body is built. So when we start taking our cues from, I have to be a certain weight, be a certain size, have a certain shape, have my eyebrows, you know, a certain way, have a specific color of my skin, have the right makeup, whatever that is, it's a losing battle. I mean, it's like the rules are constantly changing. I mean, they've changed for like every decade, the rules of beauty change. And so it's a moving target and it's an unrealistic target. So we're setting ourselves up big time there. Then if that's not enough, now we're taking cues from the porn industry. And oh my God, if that's not a setup, I don't know what is, because it's false confidence, false sensuality, sexuality. And I'm generally speaking, I mean, that could be a whole debate, but like we're taking our cues from something that's not our own experience. We're taking cues from something that's not real, that's generated, that we're consuming and absorbing, and that are other people's rules for what it means to be sexual, to be feminine, to be a woman. And that's so tricky and it's so dangerous because it's so limiting and it's not connected to our own essence, our own soul, our own soulfulness. It's like, oh, well, here's what you have to do. Check the boxes to be a beautiful, sexy, feminine, whatever, powerful woman. Well, even if you think about movies like Wonder Woman, it's like very clear what it means to be a powerful female role nowadays. Even in that sense, like, wow, I've got to, again, have this specific body, be totally confident all the time, just in her power. And as we know, the human experience is that's just never the case. Like, it doesn't matter what you look like, you're not going to be confident 24/7. There's this human element that we're totally missing. And there's this human element of like, you know, think about birth, like the most unsexy thing you could think of and yet totally feminine. You know, it's like at the very lowest level when we look at femininity is our ability to create life, whether you have children or not. I don't myself, but it's like my body, women's bodies can do that. It's different than men. And that's kind of fundamentally, biologically, one of the biggest differences. So if you think about our ability as women to create life, and then you think about birthing, literally ripping you apart, like, you know, I don't want to get like overly graphic, but for those of you who've had children or have been in the room with people who've had children, like it's not pretty. There's a lot of screaming and crying. And yes, it's so beautiful. And yes, it is such a miracle, but it's messy. So if we have this idea that being a woman has to be perfect, that has no space for a non-Instagrammable life where we're not curating every photo, where does that leave us? So again, if we let everything in our outside world dictate what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to show up, what our experience is meant to be like, well, then we're going to fall short every single time. And so this is, to me, a really beautiful opportunity to redefine what it is for you uniquely to be feminine. Like when you think about the times in your life where you felt so in that feminine essence, maybe it felt expansive. Maybe it felt trusting, expressive, creative. Maybe it felt soulful or spirited or conscious or tuned in or wise, passionate, honest, vulnerable. This energy of allowing and listening, trusting, confident, loving, playful, this real flow, this real movement of water. You know, you think about all the different expressive elements of water: ice, typhoon, hurricane, calming waters, rain. There's so many sides, and yet that idea of water is often described as the quality, the element. If you think about earth, wind, fire, water, the element of a woman is water. And we'll get into some of that woo-woo stuff later on in the month. But when you kind of start thinking about that, when you just kind of like sort of forgot people were watching and you just felt in your femininity, like, what did that feel like? What was that experience like? What was going on that created that? And that's like the truest version of your unique femininity. Because sometimes when we think about being a woman, when it's muddled up and burdened with all of these rules, sometimes being a woman can feel incredibly suffocating and imprisoned. I know that I felt that way, certainly in my marriage. For years, I was like, I feel like I'm in a cage. I feel like I'm a pretty bird in a cage, and I'm going to go freaking crazy. Like, I felt so suffocated. I felt encaged. I felt imprisoned. And that was my experience of being a good wife, a good partner. And it was so limiting to what and who I was. And it wasn't until I was able to identify that and use my voice and start stepping into the totality of my womanhood, the totality of my femininity, the totality of my essence, my soul, the bigness of who Mary is, that I was able to feel expansive, feel free, feel liberated. But I had to understand like where the breakdown was first and foremost. But I think about being a woman, embracing my femininity, and there are so many sides to that. I think that it's like we can't encapsulate it by saying, oh, like a woman who is in her whatever greatness, in her total femininity, is always going to be soft and calm and meek and whatever. It's like, no. Like, there are so many sides to me. There are so many archetypes within me. There are so many parts of me that come forward in any given situation. Like, there's the part of me that's the sensual one. There's the part of me that's the nurturing mother one. There's a part of me that is the queen kind of energy. There's the part of me that is this like huntress, the one that is sort of the wise woman, the medicine woman, the mystic, the witch, the saint, you know, however you would phrase that, that moves on intuition and sort of has those spidey senses, you know. It's like, that is all me. And so when we're cultivating this new definition of what it means to step into our own femininity, you know, it can include all of those sides. It doesn't have to be one dimensional, which is really beautiful, because if we're like all mother and no lover, we starve. You know, or if we're all lover and no wise woman, we don't have the integrity and the commitment to get through life. And so these can all really work beautifully together to help us embrace and tap into that feminine wisdom and go, okay, well, in any given moment, I can call upon this part of me. The one that is the all-wise one, the one that's the medicine woman, the one that is the sensual lover. It's like, I can't bring in boss babe Mary into the bedroom, you know, and I can't bring in bedroom Mary to a coaching call. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but all of these parts exist inside of me. There's a part of me that is a little bit dangerous and has this little bit of a shadow side. And there's part of me that is all light, just like beaming. And so often we really reduce a woman of being sort of either the Madonna or the whore, the mistress or the saint, the virgin or the whore. And so once we can embrace that femininity is multifaceted, it's not just two options, we can sort of make peace with the ones that maybe we're a little bit less comfortable with. We can begin to go, oh my God, I've only given myself the ability to be one-dimensional, two-dimensional. And yet there are so many facets of who I am as a woman. How can I open up to more of those? What are the ones that are suppressed, repressed? What are the ones in the facets of me, the archetypes in me, the personas of me that I haven't allowed myself to even look at because of all those rules, family, religion, cultural, that have said I can't look at that? Where do I need to give myself permission to open up to this facet of my femininity? So we want to explore what is truly feminine for you. How do you want to choose to define being feminine for yourself? So we're going to get into a lot of this as we move through this month, where we can connect to that part of ourselves that feels alive, sensual, intimately connected with all the things around her, that is intuitive, powerful, a force to be reckoned with. This part that is sensual, that is connected to life fully. So as part of what you can do in between our next podcast is to really create sort of a working definition, like grab a journal, write out, what is femininity? What have I thought it? What was it to me? What have I thought it was? Is that how you say it? It sounds like really bad grammar. But basically, what's the old definition? Those rules you've been operating under. Where do they come from? Whose voice is that? Who told you you were supposed to be that way? Beautiful, smart, quiet, strong, whatever it is. What are those rules? Who told you? And then decide which of those you want to release. Which of those that you go, you know what? This feels really limiting. This feels imprisoning. Let me update this. And then create a new definition, a working definition of embracing your own unique feminine energy. What would that look like? How would you dress? What would you wear? How would you stand? How would you move? What would you give yourself permission to do that you haven't before? How would you show up in your intimate relationships if you were to embrace your femininity? How would you show up in your business if you were to embrace your femininity more? How would you show up in your family as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister if you embraced your femininity more? What does that look like? See if you can find examples from people that you know that really embody that. Slow down to connect to that source within you that already knows. This is such a really beautiful inquiry to slow down and consider. I love this conversation. I really do. It's really beautiful to open up to, there might be a different way that I could step into the totality of my femininity. Where have I been blocking it? Where have I been holding it back? Where have I been quieting it? Shaming it? Expecting something different? And how can I soften to really allow what already is within me to just come forward and shine even brighter? So that is the invitation, my friends, today. And like I said, we've got so many other great conversations. And if you're in the Fully Alive membership, oh my God, do I have an incredible month planned for you guys of yoga and journal exercises and everything in between. It's going to be a beautiful month of embracing our own femininity. All right, guys, I have sufficiently said that word probably 30 times with success. So with that, I will let you go. I'm excited to be with you next week. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.